Hey Gary, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
I am absolutely outstanding and I am super excited to be here with you today. Thank you for giving of your time to spend a few moments with us this afternoon.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. And today we are here with Garry Ridge, who is the CEO and chairman of the WD-40 company. I think we have all found unique ways to use WD-40 and it has had an impact in our life. But here's the cool thing is that they are way more than oil in a can. Garry is also the author of Helping People Win at Work, a book he co-authored with our dear friend Ken Blanchard. And more importantly than what they make in a can, they are known for their unbelievable, amazing culture of the tribe of difference makers that they've built at WD-40. And so, Garry, I'm excited for people today to hear your story, your journey, and kind of get underneath the hows of what you guys have accomplished together as a tribe at WD-40.
Yeah, that's great. And I have to give you my official announcement introduction. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. G'day. I'm Garry Ridge. I'm the consciously incompetent, probably wrong, and roughly right chairman and CEO of WD-40 Company.
Wow. If that wasn't a statement of humility, vulnerability, and strength in a position of leadership, I don't know what you need to say it again. I need to hear it again. Say it one more time.
I'm the consciously incompetent, probably wrong, and roughly right chairman and CEO of WD-40 Company. And it's great.
Gosh, that is so good. So good. Man, it is so beautiful to hear a leader share their position with such authenticity and vulnerability. And right off the top, it's an example of what you have accomplished and built together with your tribe at WD-40. So let's take us back. Talk to us about your journey, kind of how you got into this space and what has led you to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I joined WD-40 in Australia in 1987. I'd worked for the distributor of WD-40 before that. And my dad was an engineer. He worked for the same company for 50 years. And I'll never forget saying to him one day after I got a call from the people at WD-40 in the US who I'd got to know over time, I said, Dad, they've asked me to join WD-40. What do you think? And he said, you can't go wrong with that stuff, son. And he was right. So it was a great opportunity to start an operation. And I worked from 87 to 94 in Australia, but mainly in Asia, actually. And I was having a conversation with my then boss, who was this CEO at the time. And I said, is there anything else you'd like me to do? I think I can add some more value if you have something. And he said, well, interesting. Would you like to move to the United States? And I said, to do what? And he said, well, we really have a passion. We want to take the blue and yellow can with a little red top to the world. And you seem to understand that. So why don't you come over here and help us do that? And I said, well, okay. So we packed up our toys and we moved to San Diego. And that's the start of an amazing journey. Whitney Johnson, talks about disrupting yourself. And you really, great opportunities come to you when you're brave enough to disrupt yourself. I didn't realize back then that's what I was doing, but it was the pivot that by doing that really put me in a place of uncertainty that caused me to be more curious and to really learn the power of servant leadership that I learned from Ken Blanchard. Because when I became CEO a few years later, I went back to school. I wanted to understand how I could build a culture that was dispersed around the world, but doing what we wanted to do. And I did a master's degree in leadership at the University of San Diego. That's where I met Ken. I learned the three most important words I've ever learned in my life, and they are, I don't know. And we got on with it. And we went on this amazing journey of building a wonderful tribe of people who, I describe it now as a dream that I had, that imagine a place where you go to work every day, you make a contribution to something bigger than yourself. You learn something new, you're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and you go home happy. Because happy people build happy families. Happy families build happy communities. Happy communities build a happy world. And as you and I know, Devin, we need a happy world.
That is so, so good and so important and so timely. And I love how you connected that right back to the three words that were so important to you, which are, I don't know. And I think that's really been the foundation. Lencioni talks about absence of trust when it comes to dysfunctional teams. And you guys have one of the most functional tribes, not teams. We'll get to the difference in that exists in the world, and particularly even in the manufacturing sector. But it's built on this place of being able to share vulnerability, because people can say, you know what, I don't know. Those words are important to you. They've become a fabric of your organization. And when you can do that, it just opens up space to really have people express who they are, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, in a way where you can truly serve them as a leader.
Absolutely. I read at one time, I was flying from Los Angeles to Sydney, and I was reading some of the work of the Dalai Lama, and there's one statement that I read that stuck with me forever and really motivated me around helping build an organization where people matter. Because the Dalai Lama said, our purpose in life is to make people happy. If we can't make them happy, at least don't hurt them. And what I was observing was a whole lot of organizations and leaders, because of ego and greed, they were hurting people. And, Aristotle, who was born in 384 BC, said, pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. So to me, it said, if we can build organizations where there is actually pleasure in the job, I bet we're going to get a better outcome than where, as it is today, 70% or so of people go to work each day and they're disengaged or actively disengaged. So I thought, the job of the leader is to create that environment. And what do you need? You need purpose, people, values, a good strategy. You have to be a bold executor, and you have to be dedicated to learning. And and Ken, helped me understand that. And I thought, well, duh, why don't we do this? So we tried, and we kept trying, and fortunately, it worked.
So good. Ken has a way of just persistently helping people understand some of the most basic concepts that, left to our own devices, elude us. And this idea of connecting your work to something that matters and finding fulfillment and contribution in what you do and making you happy at work and why that matters is so critical to purpose, to organizational health. You in your book that you wrote with Ken Blanchard, Helping People Win at Work, you talk about the difference between being a part of a team and being a part of a tribe, and that connected to a sense of belongingness. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, one of the biggest desires we have as humans is to belong. You and I and everybody that's with us today have left an organization, a party, or even a relationship because they didn't feel like they belong. Why do people leave companies? Because they didn't feel like they belong. As Ken Blanchard said, it's a shame that the only reason people know they're doing a good job is because they didn't get yelled at today. So, the tribe, I looked at a team, and a team is something that you play on situationally to win within a certain time. So we all play on a football team. We know there's a starting time and the whistle goes when it's ended. There's some goalposts, and we play to win that particular finite game. A tribe is playing the infinite game. Simon Sinek is in his latest book, The Infinite Game, and I've been fortunate enough to know Simon for about 10 years. We're good friends, and from him, it was about how do you play this infinite game where you're building an enduring company over time. So we looked at tribe, and tribe made sense. We did some studies around the Indigenous Australians and the Fijian Islanders, and we looked at what the attributes of tribes were that kept these people together thousands of years ago in kind of rough conditions. And the ones that came out were very clear. The number one responsibility of a tribal leader is to be a learner and a teacher. Let me share with you an example. If we were to go back in a time warp thousands of years and be observing a group of Indigenous Australians meeting around a campfire in the middle of Australia, the tribal leader would be there doing one thing. He'd be teaching the young tribe members to throw a boomerang. Why? Because a boomerang was the tool of survival. So if he didn't teach his tribe to be good boomerang throwers, they wouldn't exist. So to me, it was, hey, the number one responsibility of a tribal leader is to be a learner and a teacher. So we're here to learn and to teach our tribe. That's why Ken and I say, we're not here to mark your paper. We're here to help you get an A. So what does an A look like? And then how do we help you get that A?
So good. So good. And there's so many great examples of what good looks like when it comes to that concept of teaching, of learning, of helping people get an A. I know that there's a friend of yours that sometimes makes an appearance, and his name is Al. Is Al with you today?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's here. He's no friend of mine, I must tell you. This is Al. This is Al. I invented Al. He's the soul-sucking CEO, or it could be called the soul-sucking leader. And let me just give you a few of his attributes, and you'll know why he creates a toxic culture. Al is the master of control. He knows it all. He's corporate royalty. He's fought his way up this corporate ladder, so he must too be worshipped. He thinks learning is for losers. His ego eats his empathy instead of his empathy eating his ego. It's all about me, Al. He has all the answers. The soul-sucking CEO must always be right. He loves a fear-based culture. He says micromanagement is essential. He doesn't follow through with what he does, and he hates feedback. Now, we've all met some Owls in our life. And unfortunately, some people are working for Owls now or have worked for Owls. If you're working for an owl now, do yourself a favor, leave. Go find a place to be happy, because it's not worth it.
So good. So good. There's examples of what good looks like, and there's examples of what good doesn't look like. And I love your description of Al. Sadly, it is very, very accurate in a lot of workforces. And one of the things that I'm recently working on is this concept of the thief of purpose, the things that rob us of making the difference that we're created to make individually and organization. And owls are a thief of purpose, because Absolutely. They rob us of that sense of belonging. They rob us of that sense of mattering. They rob us of those teaching and what you've so very appropriately coined as learning moments, where we can be better in what we do and how we contribute every single day.
Yeah, one of the biggest, another big fear that we have is failure. And when you think about it, the best, I think it's baseball opening day tomorrow, so this is probably worth mentioning, but the best hitters in baseball hit about 30% of the balls that get thrown at them. So, to be a champion, hit 30%. But what we have in organizations is this fear of failure. So we said, let's remove the word failure, and we replaced it with a learning moment. And the definition of a learning moment is a positive or negative outcome of any situation that needs to be openly and freely shared to benefit all people. So if you were in any of our operations around the world, you would hear repeatedly. Now, I had a learning moment about that. This is what I learned. This is how I'll either change, or I had a learning moment. Here's how I can help you with that situation. So by taking the fear of failure out and replacing it with learning moments, again, people are able to communicate and able to share not only what works, but what didn't work so well.
That is so critical, because when you think about how the mind operates and how we are prone to focus on certain things and then not be able to focus on other things, when you're working in a fear-based culture, or when you're working in a culture where, you can't admit that I don't know, or you're afraid to fail, and those things aren't recognized as learning moments, where if you bet 333% you're fired, or you get a poor review, or whatever the case is, then more often than not, you're focused on your individual work, if at all. And you're not focused on the meaningful work that you're actually there to do together as a part of the tribe. So when you have the type of cultures that you just described, where there is, a fear-based culture, where there's lack of trust, where you can't say it, and all those things rob us of the ability to work together as a tribe, to focus on meaningful work, to focus on making a difference. And all we end up doing is focusing on survival mode and how we can climb the corporate ladder, how we could survive and get ahead and all those things. And at the end of the day, it robs us of the very purpose that we exist to serve.
Exactly. Now, here's an example, Davin. Let's say that I said to you, Davin, would you like to come and sell oil in a can with me? You go, okay, how about this? Davin, would you like to come and create positive, lasting memories with me? Would you like to live our just cause of making life better at home and at work? If you would like to do that, I can show you how we do that, because our why, we exist to create positive, lasting memories, solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops around the world. We solve problems and we create opportunities. That's our why statement. That's why we get up every day. And our just cause is to make life better at home and at work. Make life better at home for the people who use our product, and at work for the people who use our product, and make life at home better for the tribe members who come to WD-40, and at work for the tribe members who work at WD-40. And and our tribal promise, and this is how we got through COVID, so is a group of people that come together to protect and feed each other. So day one of COVID, we said, our number one responsibility is the safety and well-being of our tribe, and we are going to protect and feed each other all the way through this.
Yes. So good. So
and it's simple, isn't it? It's simple.
It's so simple, but it eludes so many. I mean, but here's the thing is that there's our why. It's a great why statement. And our whys are typically tied to our who. There's usually someone in our life or an experience that happened that shaped that belief system within us that allows us to focus on others rather than focusing on ourselves. And what you just shared, it's not about the oil in the can, right? It's not about the can. It's about the culture. It's about the people. I appreciate that the book that in the book, you wrote me a hand and there it says it's always about the people. And it is. It's not about the can. It's just a mechanism to be able to help people be better at home, be better at work, make a difference. And in reading your book, and we go back to some of your who's, there was two people that you mentioned in there that really caught me. One was because people could take a look at work and say, can you really find purpose in any type of work? I mean, can you find purpose in making oil in a can? Absolutely. You just described very easily the difference in just, do you want to come make oil in a can, or do you want to come and help people be better at home and at work, protect each other, and do all these things? There's two things that you said in your book, or two people, I should say. One was Jack Lambert, and you talked about he was asked at why he put so much time into making a racket. And Jack's response was,
someone is going to play to win a game with this tomorrow. That's my responsibility. And interestingly enough, Jack Lambert owned a sporting goods store in Five Dock, where I grew up in Sydney, Australia. And I used to work there part-time. And he lived till he was 99 years old. And when he passed away, which was only a few years ago, I got a note, one of his relatives, and on his side table was the book that I wrote with Ken Blanchard, because I'd written to him with a little note and thanked him for that learning that he gave me years ago. Because I went out into the back of the workshop one day, and there he was stringing a tennis racket. And in those days, he had a kind of a round piece of wood that had some leather on it. And he turned this thing, and Mr. Lambert had calluses on his fingers. And he put a spike in to hold it, and he turned it off. And I'm watching him, and It's like, wow, that's hard work. And I asked him, why are you doing that for? He said, tomorrow, one of Australia's greatest tennis players is going to play with this racket. And I have to help him win. I won't be there, but if I do my job, there's no chance that he will win. And I thought, wow, I get it. It's like the guy who packs the parachute.
Yes, exactly right. So good. And it doesn't matter whether you're packing a parachute or making a tennis racket or putting oil in a can, or another person I know we both mutually know, he's been on this live cast twice before, is Jason Lippert, and they're known for their RV parts, and they have 12,000 employees. They're a $3 billion publicly traded company, and you would think that they would be focused on the RV parts. They're not. They're focused on who they're helping their people become, and helping their people, their 12,000 people at Lippert, their tribe, be better at home and at work. The RV parts are just a vehicle to do that. So whether it's packing a parachute, making a tennis racket, putting oil in a can, making RV parts, it's always about the people that are putting that together and who you're helping them become. And then the people that product is going to serve, who is it going to help them become? What is it going to help them accomplish? And being a part of meaningful work and something greater than just your individual contribution.
Exactly. I don't know whether you saw, there's a meme going around around the ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal. And it's got 2 cans of WD-40 at either end. And, it was quite amazing because it didn't say what the product did at all. The product stood for what it was. And, I think we got nearly 300 million impressions. We didn't create that. Someone created it. But it's about the memory. I was speaking at a conference a couple of years ago, and just this year I got a letter. And the letter started with, "You won't remember me." And this person went on to talk about how I'd shared with them that they need to be happy in life and to find a place to work where they could be happy. And this person wasn't necessarily happy where they were. And I talked about memories, and they'd left that company. They'd gone to a place, they found a place that they were happy. He said that it probably saved his family and his marriage. And he told me about the trip home from the hardware store just recently. He and his 14-year-old daughter were in the car. They'd gone to the hardware store and bought some WD-40 because they were repairing a bicycle with COVID. They were going riding. And here's the guy with his daughter, fixing the bike. And he says to his daughter, "Can you smell that?" And she said, "Yes." He said, that's a memory we've created. You will remember the day that we together fixed the bicycle. And that's really the essence about creating positive, that bond between the daughter and the father. And I remember when I was growing up, I had a Mini 850 in Australia as my car, and it had an east-west motor. And I remember being there with my dad, and we were fixing the distributor cap because it gets full of water, and we used WD-40. And it's like, I remember when. And one of the great things about working with WD-40 is when I am traveling, which hasn't been recently, I'll sit next to someone on a plane and they'll say to me, "What do you do?" And I say, I work for WD-40. I don't say what I do there. I just say I work for WD-40. They always say, "WD-40, I remember when." And that's about creating positive, lasting memories.
So good. And to know that you're a part of that as a member of your tribe and being a piece of that, especially you had talked earlier. Well, let me say this. There's another friend of mine. His name is Charlie Maloof. He's the CEO of Broad River Retail and Ashley Furniture Store, a division of theirs. And they call their tribe memory makers. That's what they call them. They're not employees. They're not associates. They're memory makers because it's not about the furniture. It's about the memory. It's about remembering that moment that they've created when someone buys that new furniture. And so that when one day, if that furniture is sold or whatever, it can be, I remember when we picked this up together as a family. It's very, very similar. I don't think anything is as memorable as the smell as WD-40 in a can. We can all remember the first time that we smelled that. I truth be told, I literally just fixed my daughter's bike yesterday with her for the first time with WD-40 in a can, and the smell is still fresh to me. And I will forever remember that moment, and your tribe was critical in creating that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's
So good.
amazing.
And it makes sense now. We probably should have said this 25 minutes ago, because the D-type personalities that would have been watching this in the beginning, if they're still on here, are probably like, this all sounds great, but can you measure that? Can you tie that to results? Can you, right? A lot of the owls that maybe would have been on this for 5 minutes and then we're like, show me the results. You guys have unbelievable results. This isn't just fluff in a can. One of the things that is probably more impressive than all the things that WD-40 can do and the memories that it can create is your engagement and retention level with your tribe at WD-40. Talk to us about some of those numbers, and most impressively, some of the learning moments that you had in this last year as it relates to COVID with your engagement level with your team.
Sure. So let me go back to my statement that meant a lot to me years ago. Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. So if we can create an organization where people go to work every day, they make a contribution to something bigger than themselves, they learn something new, they feel safe and protected by a compelling set of values and go home happy, then there's a chance they'll do good work. So let's start at the beginning, 20 years ago. We had employee engagement that was probably close to, or a little better than, I guess, most companies have today. We were a fifth of the size in revenue that we are now, and our market cap was $300 million. Fast forward to today, 20 years later, our revenue, 5x, our employee engagement, 93%. 98% of people say they love to tell people they work at WD-40 Company. Now we sell our product in 176 countries around the world now. We have operations in 14 different locations around the world. So these employee engagement results, we do it in 7 languages. It's confidential. We've used the same company for 20 years, so we've got to, we can track this. And funnily enough, our market cap last time I looked at it was over $4 billion. So if you care about the people, you create a purpose-driven organization, and you consistently build culture over time, they do magnificent work. Passionate-driven, purpose-driven, passionate people create amazing outcomes. Full stop. We've proven it. This is not academic. This is factual, practitioner proof that this actually works. You've got to build a culture. Now, my algorithm for culture, which I borrowed a little bit from Simon Sinek, is this: culture equals, and the equal sign means happens when, parentheses, values plus behavior, close parentheses, times consistency. So this is simple, not easy, and time is not your friend. You cannot take fairy dust and sprinkle it over an organization and create and change the culture. When we went to high school, we were given a petri dish, and our science teachers said, you put this stuff in here and you grow culture. It takes time. But what did we do with that petri dish, Devin? We watched it every day. And if antibodies got in there, we picked it out. And if the chemicals or whatever were behaving badly, we'd redirect them. And that's what we have to do. So, I was concerned with COVID that we may have been draining our cultural equity, because we went from being together to being virtual. We worked hard at all the things we were doing to stay together. So in January, I did an off-cycle employee opinion survey just to make sure, really, actually, what I was looking for, I was looking for areas we needed to pay more attention to, because I was pretty sure that there were things that were slipping between the chairs. They had to. The results came back. They were equal to or better than the one we did just before COVID. And the one that blew me away, it went up 4 percentage points from 94% to 98%. And that's this: I am excited about the WD-40 Company future. And I went, wow. So I went to see our friend Ken Blanchard. He lives 15 minutes from me. I went over and said, Ken, what do you think about this? He said, we talked. He said, it's trust. People believe that if they can survive a pandemic with this company and get through it as safely as they have, we can get through anything. we can get through anything. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool.
So powerful. So powerful. So many companies tie culture to a building. They tie it to, I love coffee. Don't get me wrong. It's my lifeblood in many ways, but to coffee machines and pallet walls and beanbag chairs and open workspaces and autonomy and all of those things. And that stuff is all great. That creates an environment. But as you said, culture is ingrained in the values and the behaviors tied to consistency over a period of time. And there are so many organizations that they think there's a magic pill to culture. And this stuff is so important, because at the basis of any great culture and any great values is trust, is purpose, that unified sense of making a collaborative difference together, and then passion, this fuel that drives it. And one of the things that you say in your book, and it's so evident, Garry, when you speak, it's so evident that there's this burning passion inside you for your team, for your tribe, and the difference that you get to make together. And you said in your book these words: if there's no difference, there's no passion. And there are so many people looking to make a difference, and so many organizations that are not articulating well how they collaboratively can make a difference together. But in this season of time, you guys have shown that more than ever, regardless of whether there's a building, regardless of whether you're together or remote, because of your values, because of the behaviors, because of the consistency, because of the foundation of trust, because of the common thrust of purpose, there is a shared passion because of the difference that you continue to focus on every single day.
Yeah. And, people say, I don't have a job. I have a purpose. It's pretty simple. And my purpose is to support my tribe and to serve them. I love to ask them, how may I serve you? And I need them because, as I said in the beginning, I'm Garry Ridge, the consciously incompetent, probably wrong and roughly right CEO and chairman of WD-40 Company.
Oh, I love that statement. I will never, I'll never forget this, the first conversation that you and I had together, and you introduced yourself, I introduced myself, and then you said those words. You said, "So Davin, how can I serve you?" And I was taken back, because I'm sitting here going, here is a new friend, and we share a common friend in Ken Blanchard, but someone who's been much further down this path than me for a very long period of time, and has seen what his good has looked like for a very long period of time. And he's asking how he can serve me. And I just want to thank you, because you have not only served me, but so many others through sharing your thoughts, your insights, your wisdom, your experiences in our time together today, in your book that you wrote with Ken, and in this culture, this tribal culture that you have championed, that truly is an example of what good looks like. I've shared over and over again that the greatest measure of purpose is who we help others become. And I can count on one hand in this past season of time how many high-level non-owl CEOs that I've had the opportunity to have conversation with that are truly living that out in and every single day in their culture. So thank you for your focus on who you're helping your people become. Thank you for giving so much of yourself to serve others. And I'm so grateful that we've gotten to spend time together to really go deep on this stuff, because it's not fluff. It's truly foundational.
Well, thank you. And thank you for what you did, Davin, to help get the word out, because we can make a difference in the world. Life's a gift. We cannot send it back unwrapped. And we as leaders have to unwrap it for people and let people enjoy life. So we can make a difference. We can absolutely make a difference. And it feels good. It really does.
Life is a gift, and it's our responsibility of leaders to help them unwrap it and enjoy it, and we can make a difference together. I was going to ask you if there was one thing that you wanted to leave people with today, what would it be? And I think you just gave it to us. And that's so good. Garry, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for leading and championing such a tremendous culture of purpose and for the difference that you're making in the world together. I hope that we'll be able to have more of these conversations and continue to explore ways to make a difference together.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Garry. And for those of you who tuned in today or are listening, again, today we had the pleasure of spending time with Garry Ridge, the chairman and CEO of WD-40 Company. And you know what? Let's just do it one more time. Garry, for those who are getting ready to sign off, give us your title one more time because it's so good.
G'day. I'm Garry Ridge, the consciously incompetent, probably wrong, and roughly right chairman and CEO of WD-40 Company.
True, vulnerable, authentic words from a truly servant leader. Tune in next time on the Finding Purpose LiveCast.